The Galactic Academy, perched on the edge of the nebula of Orconus, was unlike any other place in the universe. It was a nexus where beings from all corners of the galaxy gathered to study, exchange knowledge, and unravel the mysteries of the countless species inhabiting the cosmos. Students came from planets with rich histories of telepathy, time travel, shape-shifting, and even immortality. But this year, for reasons unknown to most of the students, the focus of their studies was humanity. Professor Rilo, a scholar from the luminous planet of Andromeda, stood before his class. His violet skin shifting gently in a wave-like motion, reflecting his mood. His deep, rumbling voice filled the vast auditorium. "Today we begin our study of humans," he said, his hands raising to emphasize the importance of what was about to unfold. "Humans, unlike any other species in the galaxy, have a complex relationship with pain. They are not immune to it, nor are they equipped with the same physiological resilience that many of us take for granted. Yet they endure it, they seek it, and sometimes they even embrace it. This is what we must understand." The alien students, each representing a unique race with their own remarkable abilities, murmured amongst themselves. There was Takar, a towering, silver-skinned being from the desert planet of Zar, who could manipulate the elements but had never felt pain himself. There was Jika, a translucent, jelly-like organism from Glycera, a water world, whose body was immune to injury, able to absorb impacts without feeling a thing. Then there was Varn, a young Cypherian with amber eyes that glowed when he was curious or focused, as he was now. Varn had heard the stories of humans, how they had created machines that could regenerate cells and heal wounds in seconds, how their technology was so advanced that pain, for them, had become an inconvenience at best, an afterthought at worst. He could not understand the obsession with it. Why would a species that could eradicate pain willingly endure it? It seemed so primitive. The class began their first assignment, to observe humans in their natural environment. They were instructed to travel to Earth and learn firsthand about how humans lived with pain. The task was simple on paper, but profound in its implications. After all, pain was not something most of the Academy's students had ever experienced. The Market Square. The planet Earth was a chaotic, noisy place, full of contradictions. It was a planet of extremes, where some lived in towering cities surrounded by pollution, while others lived in quiet villages nestled in verdant forests. Varn and his classmates found themselves in one of the planet's largest metropolitan cities. The humans here seemed completely unbothered by their surroundings, rushing about their daily routines, talking on strange devices, and navigating busy streets. Yet something struck Varn as odd about this place. Despite the dense crowd, there was a palpable sense of weariness, as though the air itself carried a certain heaviness, a tension that seemed to seep into every person's movements. They wandered through the crowded market square, trying to understand the human way of life. Alien voices could be heard in hushed tones, whispering in the languages of galaxies far beyond the human's comprehension. But then, as if drawn by some unseen force, Varn's amber eyes fell upon something that immediately caught his attention, a small booth adorned with various bright, artistic designs. A human woman sat at the center, her legs crossed in a relaxed posture. Beside her stood a man sitting on a chair, his body tense but calm, staring at the artist before him. An intricate design was being carefully etched into the man's arm by the tattoo artist, who was working steadily, his hands precise and practiced. Varn approached cautiously, curiosity piquing his interest. He had heard of tattoos before, but he had never seen one being applied. His species had never bothered with such things. Marks on the body were meaningless to them. But here, this human seemed to be undergoing an intense physical process, one that, from what Varn understood, would surely cause a great deal of pain. And yet the man remained still, barely flinching. "This is unusual," Varn muttered to Jekka, who floated beside him, a gelatinous mass undulating with curiosity. "Are you certain?" Jehera's voice was a lilting hum. "This doesn't look like pain. I would have dissolved by now. What is the purpose of this ritual?" Varn's gaze remained fixed on the man, whose arm was covered in intricate swirling patterns. His face was serene, devoid of any signs of distress. Varn's people were not unfamiliar with pain, but it was always a result of something unavoidable, something that could not be healed by advanced technology. Humans, on the other hand, had mastered this. Their medical tools could nullify most pain, and yet here the man seemed to embrace it. Varn took a step closer, his senses sharp. He could see the tiny beads of sweat forming along the human's forehead, but his body didn't tremble, nor did he grimace. Instead, the human smiled faintly. "Is this painful?" Varn asked, his voice low and curious. The encounter with the tattooed human stayed with Varn long after they returned to the academy. He spent the next several days contemplating what he had seen and heard. Humans didn't just endure pain, they found purpose in it. They sought pain, not for the sake of suffering, but because they believed it gave their lives meaning. Varn observed closely. Jekka was suffering, but there was something almost enlightening in the way the experience affected him. "Don't give up. Keep going," Varn encouraged. "I don't know if I can last," Threx admitted, his voice strained. "This is too much." But just like the humans he had observed, Varn pushed forward. It was not the pain itself that motivated him, but the sense of purpose, the desire to see this through, to find out what lay beyond the pain. The understanding. When the simulation ended, Varn and his classmates sat in a circle, exhausted and panting. The pain they had endured was still fresh in their minds, but they had made it through. Jekka was the first to speak. "I never realized that pain could be so transformative. It wasn't just about hurting, it was about pushing past it." Varn looked around at his classmates, their faces full of new understanding. He thought of the human who had gotten the tattoo and how, despite the pain, he had smiled. "It's like what the human said," Varn murmured, his voice softer now. "Pain is part of the journey. It's something you endure, not because you have to, but because it shapes who you are." And in that moment they understood something profound. The humans didn't avoid pain. They found purpose in it. After the initial encounter in the bustling human market square, Varn could not stop thinking about the tattooed human. The image of the man sitting quietly, enduring what could only be described as pain without any signs of distress, had lingered in his mind. It wasn't just the act of getting the tattoo itself, but how the human approached it. There was a quiet strength in his composure, as though he was doing something profound, something that gave him meaning. "We need to go further with this," Varn said, his amber eyes gleaming. "We saw the tattooed human endure pain, but it wasn't just physical. It was a process. I think we need to learn more about what pain means to them, how they interact with it, not just as a biological response, but as an emotional one." Jekka, still a bit disoriented by the experiments they had conducted in the simulation chamber, floated over with his usual fluid grace. "You mean we have to keep experiencing it?" he asked, his voice laced with hesitation. "We barely got through those tests. I can't imagine subjecting myself to more discomfort."